Oh, let's read this verse in purport, which we haven't done yet. It's from Prahlad Maharaj's discussions with his father. Please everyone repeat after me. Naisham Matis Tavad Urukramangrim Sprishati Anartha Apagamo Yad Arthaha Mahiyasam Pada Rajobhishekam Niskinchananam Navranita Yavat Naishang Matisthavaduru Kramangrim Sprishat Yanartha Pagamo Yadarthaha Mahiyasang Pada Rajobhishekam Nishkinchananang Navranita Yavat. Translation. Unless human society accepts the dust of the lotus feet of great Mahatmas, devotees who have nothing to do with material possessions, mankind cannot turn its attention to the lotus feet of Krishna. Those lotus feet vanquish all the unwanted, miserable conditions of material life. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This verse appears in the Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.32. When the great sage Narada was giving instructions to Maharaj Yudhishthir, he narrated the activities of Prahlad Maharaj. This verse was spoken by Prahlad Maharaj to his father Hiranyakashipu, king of the demons. Prahlad Maharaj had informed his father of the 9 basic processes of bhakti yoga, explaining that whoever takes to these processes is to be considered a highly learned scholar. Hiranyakashipu, however, did not like his son to talk about devotional service. Therefore, he immediately called Prahlad's teacher, Sunda. The teacher explained that he had not taught devotional service to Prahlad, but that the boy was naturally inclined that way. At that time, Hiranyakashipu became very angry and asked Prahlad why he had become a Vaishnava. In answer to this question, Prahlad Maharaj recited this verse to the effect that one cannot become the Lord's devotee without receiving the mercy and blessings of another devotee. So, this is a fact. Devotional service means if one is displaying any symptoms of devotional service to Krishna, that means that person has had contact with a Vaishnava. It means that. And the process of devotional service, Rupa Goswami describes that there are details between one spiritual master and another spiritual master, but there are some general principles which are universal. And these are the basic principles of the science of bhakti yoga. And the first one is that one must take shelter at the lotus feet of a devotee, become that devotee's disciple, and learn how to execute devotional service from that devotee, following the regulative principles of devotional service. And one should, among the offenses to chanting the holy name of Krishna, one offense is to consider the spiritual master an ordinary human being, or to disobey the spiritual master's orders, or neglect the spiritual master's worship. The spiritual master for the disciple is the representative of Krishna. Actually, Krishna appears in our heart as Chaitya Guru, and he also appears externally as the spiritual master. And so the spiritual master should be accepted as none other than Krishna himself. Acharya mang vijaniyat. Krishna says, you should know this. The spiritual master should be accepted as Krishna. Not that the spiritual master presents himself as Krishna or says he's become an incarnation of Krishna. The spiritual master is a devotee of Krishna. But he accepts his own spiritual master in that way as well, because we are actually servants. That's the actual truth. Our actual tattva is that we are servants. Jivas, all of us are Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. And we can learn to be a servant by becoming a follower of another one of Krishna's servants, and accepting that servant as divine, as part of Krishna, as not different from Krishna. Ultimately, everything is Krishna. So, Krishna comes in the form of the deities, he comes in the form of the spiritual master, he comes in the form of his holy name, and the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the principle of accepting the spiritual master is essential. And Srila Prabhupada expanded this movement beyond the borders of India and all over the world by following the orders of his spiritual master and setting an example of how a perfect devotee serves his spiritual master. And with all of his talents, his gifts, he constantly preached Krishna consciousness, and he asked us to do that for him. So now I'd like to chant the song of the departed Vaishnavas, and then I'll ask Jagarini and Kanka also to come up and say something specifically about Srila Prabhupada. So the song by Narottam Das Thakur that starts Jayanilo Premadhana Karuna Prachur. Please put that song up on the screen. And does someone have kartals? So these are songs about this is a song about the feelings of separation that a devotee has when devotees, Vaishnava devotees, depart from this world. Jayanilo prema dhana karuna prachur Jayanilo premadhana karuna prachur Heno Prabhu kotha gela acharya thakur Heno Prabhu kotha gela acharya thakur Kaha mura swarup rupa Kaha sanatan Kaha mura swarup rupa Kaha sanatan Kaha dasha raghunatha patita pavan Kaha dasha raghunatha patita pavan Kahamura Bhatta Juga Kaha Kaviraj. Kahamura Bhatta Juga Kaha Kaviraj. Ekat kale kota gela gora nataraj. Ekat kale kota gela gora nataraj. Pashanik kutibo mata annalde pashibo. Pashane kutibo mata annalde pashibo. Gauranga gunera nidhi kota gele pabo. Gauranga gunera nidhi kota gele pabo. Sheshaba Shangira Shange Jekoi Lobilas. Sheshangana Paya Kande Narotamodash. Translation. We need another garland for Vaikuntanath Prabhu. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who is filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Advaita Acharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatana? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Next. Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? Where is Krishna Das, Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock, and I will enter into the fire. Next. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottama Das simply weeps. So you can imagine being in the association directly of Lord Chaitanya, of the 6 Goswamis, of Krishnadas Kaviraj, and Srinivasacharya, Narottam Das, and so many other great devotees, and being in the association of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was like that, even, very sweet, especially because he was spreading this Krishna consciousness where it hadn't been spread before, where people weren't even familiar with Vedic culture. And so having tasted that personal association, one devotee should feel anxious to taste that again, or in anxiety to not have the personal association. But at the same time, the association is still there through following the instructions and serving the mission of Srila Prabhupada. So now I'd like to ask Kanka Dasi, Jagarini Dasi, and Vaikuntanath Prabhu to come sit here, if you don't mind. You don't feel your voice? You can sit anyway. You don't have to speak. If you don't mind, or if you do mind, then it's all right. But I don't want to put you on the spot. And I know other devotees may have comments and want to say something in glorification of Srila Prabhupada or in gratitude to Srila Prabhupada. Let's take one of these mics so they can pass it around.
Thank you,
Go ahead, Jagarini, you're up first.
So, when these days, like Srila Prabhupada's appearance day, Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day, the material world is going faster and faster. That's my experience. Time is whizzing by. We're getting busier and busier. We're thinking so many things in this world are giving us more time. Cell phones, so you don't have to stop and use a telephone. Internet, so you get information instantly. But what these things are actually doing is they're causing things to go faster. The expectation of instant information is causing everything to go faster. And in that world, we're very, very driven in our jobs, in our daily lives, to fit everything in. It's getting more and more difficult to raise children, afford everything, and to make the time for spiritual life. And these special days are a day when you, at least personally, I stop and take account of the past and what's happened in my life. And when Srila Prabhupada was with us, when he first came to the United States, he came at a time when nobody, or very, very few people, knew anything about Eastern thought, reincarnation. These words were barely just starting to surface in the United States. And the young people in our culture were taking to drugs, intoxication, even with the best intention, even at that time there were so many protests for civil rights, for ending the war in Vietnam, so many good causes. But still, the information on how to really help the world was not really there. We kind of had that desire but didn't know how to go about it. So Srila Prabhupada, single, but all alone, basically he was warned when he got on the Jaladuta, you might die, don't do it. And he had heart attacks on the boat. So when he landed here and he arrived here, his mission was daunting. And he didn't set out to accomplish. He set out to please his guru. With his heart and his soul, just to please his guru. He knew that because his Guru Maharaj wanted this to happen here, that if he listened to that instruction, took it on his head and followed that, it would somehow happen by the mercy of Krishna. When you look at what happened with our generation of devotees, how Srila Prabhupada was able, in a short period of time that he was here, transform the lives of so many people and turn them completely around and elevate us to Brahminical standards from knowing nothing. I know that nowadays, sometimes when new devotees join and we try to get them to understand the standards little by little, we're finding it's taking months and years just to get the cooking standard right, or the cleaning standard right, or the organization right. I mean, these are experiences we're actually having. It's taking so long to get, and that's okay. Everybody's trying their best, but Srila Prabhupada empowered us and did this miraculously so quickly, and sent devotees out after just a short amount of time to different places on the globe to just open temples from scratch. To India, behind the Iron Curtain at the time, so many places, to risk so much, because we knew there was something inside of us that knew that Prabhupada was not ordinary. He wasn't ordinary. He cared for us more than anybody else we'd ever experienced cared for us in a very deep way, and he was guiding us to the one thing that will really make us happy eternally. And so when I look back and I look at the time and I look at what Prabhupada accomplished during that time, and our experiences growing up in the movement. Of course, since then, the movement is growing by leaps and bounds in many different parts of the world. So many of my god brothers and god sisters are representing Srila Prabhupada properly and making disciples. I should probably talk a little bit about Prabhupada in LA. I was fortunate enough to grow up in Krishna consciousness in Los Angeles Temple, which at the time was the center of ISKCON, because Mayapur hadn't quite happened yet, Vrindavan Temple hadn't quite happened yet. So Los Angeles was the hub of the movement in the early 70s. And BBT was there, the books were being translated there, the artists were painting all these beautiful paintings. These paintings that are on the wall at our temple, we were able to, by the mercy of Srila Prabhu in LA and BBT, these are BBT originals that were painted at that time by the devotees under Prabhupada's direct guidance. And it was just wonderful being there and having Prabhupada spend so much time there. We would go to class every morning, and he would be there giving class. The temple room in Los Angeles at the time was probably about the size of this room, right? If anybody has ever been to the Fate Studio exhibit in LA, that room where the Fate Studio exhibit is used to be the temple room. The temple room in Los Angeles right now that was a sanctuary. It had pews and benches, so we didn't use that as a temple room at first. So Prabhupada would sit, and the men would be on one side, all, from the deities on one side, Prabhupada on the other, just set up kind of like this. The men on one side, all the way up to the Vyasasan, the women on the other side, all the way up to the Vyasasan. We took turns doing everything, offering flowers, bringing our kids for cookies, so many things. And the devotees thought of nothing else but pleasing him and serving him by following their direct authority, who was engaged in spreading this movement. So it ran kind of like efficient, like an army. Everybody knew what they were doing, knew how to do it. We had lots of festivals, not just once a week. We'd go to parks, we'd make prasadam, it was pretty much nonstop. And Srila Prabhupada, as busy as he was, would be personal with every person that he came in contact with. I had a few things that personally that I got to do for him. Shruti Kirti was his servant, and at some point he gave me Srila Prabhupada's clothes to iron. So I did that for quite a while. Would spray them with a little drop of sandalwood oil in a bottle of water and spray them on his clothes, and all of his clothes would smell like sandalwood. And I cooked a little bit, a few preps for Srila Prabhupada. That was rare. Srila Prabhupada had special cooks, and he was able to maintain his health that way. He would always taste what the devotees would make special for him, but there were certain devotees that were tasked with cooking for him. And his classes were amazing. And I'm going to give the mic to Kanka in a second because I don't want to hog it. But I just was reminded of everything Prabhupada said and every gesture Prabhupada made was extremely significant. There was one memory tape, one of our godbrothers explained to a group of students that, no, actually he didn't explain it to them. He passed on a tape to a group of students. What were they said Prabhupada's, all his actions were mudras. What was that, who was that based?
Okay, so that was Atma Tattva's interview on the memory tape, and he said that when Prabhupada was unconscious in his last days, that a classical dance instructor had come to visit, and he saw the way Srila Prabhupada was laying on the bed and how he was moving, and he said he's actually dancing, and he's performing.
There was more than that, though. There was one where I remember part of that interview was that when they studied Prabhupada's movement in just regular lectures, in regular classes, they found that all of his gestures were mudras. So more than this extraordinary personality, everything he did was extremely significant. And when Vishaka was here, and she gave one little memory, personal memory that I'll repeat because it's also evident of that significance. She was quietly chanting one day, waiting for Srila Prabhupada to come out. She would photograph him. And he walked by her, very close to her. She didn't see him coming. He walked by her. And he looked down and he said to her, "Thank you very much." And she had to think, why is he thanking me? I'm just sitting here chanting japa. And then she realized it was because she was chanting japa. And Srila Prabhupada was grateful to all of us for any instruction that we took, that he gave. Anything he asked us to do, if we did it, Srila Prabhupada was grateful for that. So he's the most merciful, and you don't have to be a direct disciple to feel that. Prabhupada said he's in his books, and I know many second and third generation devotees that feel very close to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
I think, Hare Krishna, Om Ganati Mirandasya Gana Gana Salakaya Chakshura Militam Jena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. I really love that prayer because it describes how the Guru actually opens our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. And it's a little bit hard for me to speak on this day because I always get tearful, so I'll try not to. But all the Prabhupada disciples can probably remember very clearly where they were when Prabhupada actually left the planet. It was pretty devastating to all of us. And we had been doing 24-hour kirtan for many days and nights to try and ask Krishna to please keep him here. But of course, his condition at that time, the Kaviraj said that he didn't know how Srila Prabhupada was even existing inside his body, because any ordinary person in the condition Srila Prabhupada was in would have been wreathing with pain. But Srila Prabhupada was definitely somewhere else. He didn't feel pain at that time. He was translating on his bed Srimad Bhagavatam till the very last minute. My husband and I were trying to get there to go see him before he departed, but we didn't make it there till 3 days later. And it was an amazing time. Bhardaraj was explaining to us how, and this might be on the video that he did or the tape that he did, that when they had the kirtan, as Prabhupada was getting ready to depart, it sounded like the demigods were there. He said it was the most ecstatic kirtan that he had ever heard, and that it sounded like the skies had opened up. And so the devotees at that time, when I arrived in Vrindavan, were really full of so much memories and love, and it was quite overwhelming. We stayed in Vrindavan for a week, and they had the Mahotsava ceremony. Bhavananda asked Varanasi and I to cook the Mahotsava feast, 108 preps for Srila Prabhupada, and neither one of us were really expert cooks. We were usually just assisting the expert cooks. And if you've ever cooked in Vrindavan on the buckets with coals, it's very difficult for a Westerner because we had never done that. But fortunately, Srila Prabhupada's sister, who looked exactly like Prabhupada, they looked like they could be twins. She came in while we were struggling to cook 108 preps, and she sat down, and wherever Pishima would go, she would have a bottle of Ganges water, and she would sprinkle it on everybody. And then she sat down in the kitchen, and within 2 hours, she cooked 40 preps, whereas it took us 2 days to cook the rest. We did that in Vrindavan, and then we also went to Mayapur after that and did that in Mayapur for the Puspa Samadhi. And all of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers came to both those festivals. So it was a really special time for all of us. And I feel really grateful because Upendra, who was Srila Prabhupada's personal servant at that time, was distributing Prabhupada's cloth and flowers that were on his palanquin when they carried him around Vrindavan, and flowers, and then sand from his samadhi where they lowered him into his samadhi, and he gave me some. So this is what I wear around my neck. It's got all the nectar that he gave me at that time. And just so many things, like Jagarini was saying, that in the early days, I don't know where this is quoted, but I heard this, that Prabhupada said we were associates of Lord Chaitanya, and we're like, how could that be? We were so terrible. We were hippies, and we were, doing so many things. And we came from a culture that had no idea about God consciousness. And he said, that was superficial. As soon as you heard Hare Krishna, you came running. And it's true. It's like that generation of devotees gave up everything. In fact, his godbrothers said, why didn't you tell your disciples about the 5th regulative principle? And he said, I didn't need to, because which is no hoarding. And he said, I didn't need to tell my disciples, because as soon as they came to me, they gave me everything. And he always was so grateful to us. Whenever he gave class in LA, he would always say thank you to us. And he was always so appreciative On one lecture I remember very clearly, we were in the old temple room in Los Angeles, and he was talking about, it was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's, I think it was his appearance day or his disappearance day, maybe disappearance day. Disappearance day. And he said very clearly, I couldn't have done this without you, and my Guru has sent all of you. Then he started crying. It was so touching. It was like the whole temple room, everybody was crying. And that is on a tape. You can listen to it. And there were several occasions when all this would happen. But I think probably one of the most amazing things, just to show the miracles that Srila Prabhupada did, was when he came, and I'm not sure what year this was for the Chaitanya Charitamrita printing. 75. We were all there in 75, but
76 maybe.
75 or 76. We were quite a large community. We had, everybody was, young, so we were starting our families. And Srila Prabhupada came and told Rameshwar that we needed to do the Chaitanya Charitamrita. What, 74? Yeah. Okay, 74. That it needed to get done right away. And then he said to Rameshwar, it needs to be done within 2 months. And Rameshwar said, that's impossible. And Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. He said, it's not impossible. So he knew that Krishna could do whatever, and he instructed us. So the whole community went into a mode of working 24 hours a day, including the moms, everybody. We would cook for everybody else. We would wash clothes for everybody else, watch other people's kids, so that there could be 24 hours of work on the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The artists started painting. The ones who were good with backdrops would paint the background, and then the ones who were good with faces would do the faces. So they painted the paintings for all the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in a, what do you call that? Like, marathon? It was a marathon, but in the sequence, so that each one was being painted by many artists. And Prabhupada would guide them. He would tell them every day. He would look at the paintings and he would tell them what it should look like, how it should be. So it was an amazing time, and you can imagine 17 volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita were completed in 2 months. It was quite a marathon that we did, but we all have very fond memories of being able to be part of that. There was also one other thing I wanted to explain to you that Akruranath Prabhu was talking about. How we can't really understand devotional service. We read that verse from Prahlad Maharaj, that unless we have the guidance of the Mahatmas, the great souls, and one time Prabhupada asked that question. He said, how do you understand Krishna? And several devotees gave different answers, and Prabhupada said, and then one devotee said, only by Bhaktivedanta. So you have to have the knowledge and you have to have the guru, the teacher, to understand. And I was fortunate enough in 1974 to be in Berkeley when they first bought the Berkeley Temple. I had gone there to sew the canopies for the Rath Yatra carts. And I was fortunate. Most of the devotees had gone on Harinam that day, but because I was sewing, I was there when they had a press conference. And there were quite a few press people, maybe about 14. Bhaktidas had set them in chairs right in front of the Vyasasan. And I got to sit right at the foot of Srila Prabhupada, And one of the press people asked Srila Prabhupada, so Swami, when you die, and then he interrupted him and he said, I will never die. He said, I will live on in my books. So this is how I want to conclude, that we associate with Prabhupada through his books and through the lectures. I mean, everywhere he went in the world, those lectures were recorded. And then, of course, Yadubara has made all these wonderful videos for us. So we can have that association all the time. And it's so wonderful that we are given this. And I just want to say thank you to all of you, because this congregation is so great at distributing Prabhupada's books and at following Vaisheshika Prabhu is so wonderful. So thank you.
So it's now. No, would you like to speak, Prabhu? No. So it's now 4 o'clock. I think we go to 4:10, and so we have time. I know a lot of you want to say something and want to glorify Srila Prabhupada, and we'll take a few. Please keep it short so that we can give everyone a chance who really wants to say something. So please raise your hand if you, yes, Bali Mardan Prabhu.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Yeah. So
you come sit.
Okay.
So that people can see you on the internet.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. First of all, I would like to thank Prabhupada disciples who are present here, starting with His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, Nirkula Mataji, Akruranath Prabhuji, Jagrani Mataji, and Kanka Mataji, and many other Prabhupada disciples who are there. With their permission, just like it is mentioned, Krishna is the property of Radha, so the spiritual master is actually the property of the disciples. So we don't have access without opening and asking the disciples directly. So that's why we humbly take permissions from all Prabhupada disciples, those who are at least present here, to allow me to say something about Prabhupada. So that's why our Guru Parampara system is established. So I just like to thank also all of the devotees who have been coming and serving Prabhupada. And few of the incidents which I like to describe about Prabhupada, because we are grand disciples, as Jagrani Mataji said, we are not directly connected, neither seen Prabhupada directly, but through the eyes of our Guru, through the eyes of Prabhupada disciples, we have experienced and seen. And with that same bhav, I am going to tell from this Lilamrit which Sasrup Das Goswami Maharaj has explained and described. So Prabhupada often says in one time about just blind following. He was saying a story that an animal doctors like veterinarians, so when he goes and sees different animals and he cures in a different ways. So his apprentice assistant was also following with him all the time. And he goes, and one time a person called to fix his horse. His neck was swollen, very, big swollen in the neck, and he could not do anything. So he just the doctor examined the horse, and then finally he saw something, and then he got a hammer and hit like 4 or 5 times on the neck very heavily. And then after a few minutes, the horse seems to be recovering and getting well. So the owner gave a lot of money and thanked him. So similarly, the apprentice has envious and, taking over these positions in that mentality. So after a few days, he left his job. He said that, what's the big deal? I can do the same. So then he was also called, then he advertised that he's now a doctor. So people called him, so 1 or 2 guys, he called him, he was treating the same way, but instead of curing, he's killing the animals. So then he got the bad reputation. So one day the doctor was going and he found the apprentice and he said, come on, I heard that you are doing it, but you are taking my name also and you are polluting the whole thing. So what's going on here? Then no, I saw you are also hammering down the horse and I am also using the same technique wherever I go. Well, he said that everything has a different context and different way to do the treatment. Because the horse has eaten a watermelon, a big one, and it was choked. So I saw that. That's what I want to break the watermelon to do that one. That's what I'm hammering so that it was fixed. It is not that all the time you go and hammering out in any solid things. So the idea what Prabhupada's moral was giving, that people blindly follow the Shankarites things. So they don't understand the purport behind the actual Shankara's vision. And they blindly follow and defy the existence and the personality of God. So in this way, how Prabhupada has given so many examples in the light. Another way Prabhupada says about Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. So it's called half logic truth, half chicken logic truth. So in Ardha Kukuti Nyaya, when he is mentioning, he said that the chicken is giving golden egg. So the owner is very happy that golden egg, but at the same time he is feeding. He is feeding the chicken. So one day, he said, why should I give? Because egg is coming from the back. So let's chop off the front. So then he cut off the front. And then you don't get the egg because it's dead. So the intellectual thing, the thought process, the mind and the intellect, which is the brainer behind the society, that is the Vaishnava and Brahmin communities, who should be really fed well, who should be given the due respect, so that the golden egg can come, like Srimad Bhagavatam and many other parampara. And many times he will establish so many things like Ajagala Nyaya, means Ajagalastana Nyaya, means he will give that materialistic persons, no matter we are also karmi, but he give always that don't place your hope and place of happiness in the material substance. And he gives the example that how the goat is going, in India you might have seen when there's a big goat, in the neck you will see it's likely dropping like a cow's, the udder. So it's likely, people will think that there will be milk will come. And the ducklings who are going around the goat to find out that there is a milk inside, and they jump around. But they know that even though they catch it, they won't get the milk. So it's called Ajagala Stana Nyaya. So that means we are all hovering around the material substance to get the happiness. We are not getting there. By chance also we get it there, but there is no milk there. So we will get happiness in the spiritual substance. Prabhupada always said, no matter, you do not need to experiment. You will get the spiritual substance, then the real happiness. Because Raso Vayam Raso Kunteya. Krishna is the real reservoir of all pleasure, reservoir of all rasa. He will get it. So that is the whole purport which Prabhupada explains and gives his value, and how he really encourages his disciple to understand the Vedic principle with different examples. And that gives us more enlightenment and more attachment to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Thank you for allowing to listen. Thank you, Prabhu, for giving me some Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
So just quick note, that is the timing. We will go until 4:20, and this watch is fast. So we'll go around 4:20, and 4:20 we'll start the Puspanjali, 10 minutes.
Okay.
And 4:30 there will be 2 Aarti, 1 Aarti for Gaur Aarti. Simultaneously we'll do the Prabhupada's Aarti, and we'll chant the Guru Astakam. And then 5 o'clock it will be Damodar Astakam as usual. Thank you.
So please let me see a hand from someone else who has another comment or question. Or yes, Prabhu. Please come up.
Yeah, it'll be quicker if you...
It's all right.
Thank you for the opportunity. I was just remembering this wonderful sloka in Bhagavad Gita 2.41, Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahusha kahayanantascha buddhayo vyavashayanam. So Srila Prabhupada, he exemplified that verse. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's instruction, he took it as his life and soul. And when he read this verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he puts a commentary there that determination is to take the words of the spiritual master as one's life and soul. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, on their first meeting in Ultadanga Junction in Calcutta in 1922, he gave him 2 instructions on the very first meeting. And one instruction was that you are an educated Englishman and you preach to the whole world in the English language. And the second instruction in the Radha Kund he gave was that if you ever get money, please print books. And we can see how Srila Prabhupada, he really took this to his heart and soul. Initially he was a struggling businessman, but he would always meditate on how can I fulfill my Guru's instruction. That time it seemed impossible. Actually, after he came many years later, some devotees interviewed this one pujari who was in, there is Advaita Acharya Bhavan near Mayapur in Shantipur. If you ever go, there is a little place where Nityananda Prabhu and all used to meet. So, Srila Prabhupada, this pujari would say, after many years when he saw Prabhupada photo and with his disciple, he was shocked. He said, he is the same person who is to come here, beg and cry that my Guru, and before he left, he begged to the pujari that my Guru has given me an impossible task. Please bless so that I can fulfill. So Srila Prabhupada, he begged, he cried out of love for the people whom he didn't even know. This is the mission of compassion, which Lord Chaitanya also was so much pleased as Lord Nityananda was delivering everyone. There is one very sweet incident. It really touches my heart. It was, I think, Jamuna Mataji or, one of the Srila Prabhupada very dear disciples who would cook for Srila Prabhupada. Jamuna Mataji or Malati Mataji, one of the two. So she was cooking, and Srila Prabhupada would sometimes correct, as everybody knows, so he would make, please do this, do that, he would guide, and should be sometimes feeling, oh, maybe I'm not able to cook up to the standard, maybe I'm not able to please. Then one day one incident happened that really touched her, and it touched me also. So one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers he invited for lunch. Malati Mataji? Okay, thank you for that. So she cooked a wonderful preparation and she served both of them. And Prabhupada's godbrother said, oh, Mataji, she is cooking for you, ladies? And then Prabhupada said, they are qualified because if I ask them to cut their throat for me, they are ready to do that. That qualifies them. And then he paused for a moment. He said, I am also ready. If she needs to, me too. Basically, Srila Prabhupada said, they can give their life for me. I can give my love for them.
She would die for me and I would die for her.
Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada not only spoke big philosophy, which he definitely did, because all over the world, this is the first time in history, he unlocked the treasure house of Lord Chaitanya to the whole world. It has never happened before in the past. Nobody has done this. He is the one. Just like Advaita Acharya cried out of a love for all the fallen conditioned souls with a tulsi leaf and Ganga Jal, he would cry out of compassion for the all fallen conditioned souls who have no interest in spiritual life. As Srila Prabhupada said that, you have no qualification, I made you qualified. So out of compassion, similarly Srila Prabhupada, he out of love, he would cry for all of us. And he would beg. And he went through so much difficulty, so much struggle. When we go any place, there are people to receive. But when he came here, he turned left, he turned right. And there is nobody to receive him. When he departed from India, Who are the people to receive him? Only 2 or 3 people. One is the person who works in that company, Sindhya company, and Vrindavan, his son. He's going for a mission to save the whole world. There is nobody to see him off. There is nobody to receive him. He struggles out of love for all of us. Similarly, just like Advaita Acharya called Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu to appear, Srila Prabhupada, out of his compassion, made Radha and Krishna appear all over the world. Because of him, we have Radha Madan Mohan here. All of us, we are able to chant. So we can see Srila Prabhupada, not only he unlocked this treasure house of Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Lord Chaitanya to the whole world, but also this is a movement of love. He loved everybody. And many devotees has experienced, as I just quoted this Malti Mataji's story, which emphasizes how much Srila Prabhupada loved everyone and how much everyone loved Srila Prabhupada. And we can also see through the expression of Srila Prabhupada disciple how much they love him. We wish and we pray that if we can just get a drop of that love for Srila Prabhupada, our life will be successful. So we really express our gratitude. We express our commitment again to assist in Srila Prabhupada mission and to really serve Srila Prabhupada with our whole heart to please him, so that that will make our life successful and that will make us dear to Krishna. We express our gratitude for the rare gift we have received and we recommit ourselves to his mission. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So now, if everyone stands up and puts away the seats, we will have the Pushpanjali. Some flowers will be passed out. Everyone make sure to take enough flowers to throw it 3 times. You have to keep your flowers, don't throw it all at once. And we'll recite some prayers, and then when I say Pushpanjali, everyone can throw flowers to offer to Srila Prabhupada.